At Truth Lookout, we investigate and verify compelling information that is not often publicly shared. We share this information without any biased media interference, political pandering, or censorship. We will share our findings on Tuesdays. Not Tuesdays, but Tuesdays. Our topics will cover important social issues which are often overlooked or ignored due to their complexity. Our panel of experts will continually vary as the investigations evolve or change. Last week's brief overview of human trafficking in Columbus, Ohio, leads us to a deeper dive that our team has spent months investigating. As if the plight of human trafficking victims isn't devastating enough, we have uncovered the fact that certain organizations and civic leaders who claim to assist victims are merely acting as poverty pimps. Poverty pimps are individuals or agencies that make money off the plight of those whose they claim to serve: the poor, the underserved, the marginalized, and unseen. Their claims of serving victims is what we have investigated and why we can verify a significant difference in standards of care and service from one agency to the next. Our hope by sharing our findings is that improvements can be established and that some legislated overarching standard of care and harm reduction might occur before poverty pimps gobble up the limited charitable contributions while merely perpetuating the suffering of our most vulnerable populations. We explained some of the complex relationships between illegal narcotics and human trafficking last week. We also outlined with historic reference just one case and the significant and intricate organizational skill that has been crafted by traffickers. The stranglehold that many of these traffickers hold over a community, particularly ones in transition and/or decline, reaches out with tentacles and grabs onto different parts of a community. Organized traffickers display an acumen of how to put more money into their pockets and how to maintain and protect their illegal enterprise. For instance, it's no secret to anyone paying attention that traffickers are very happy with the existence of certain non-profit agencies in their neighborhoods. A particular unforeseen benefit to traffickers are those nonprofits that offer food or shelter. These nonprofits often serve some of the most marginalized populations within the community, and it sadly is fertile hunting for traffickers. Connected communities who are aware of traffickers, and those organizations that serve those communities, often work collaboratively to insulate their clients from this risk. Simple guidelines and rules are established, boundaries and expectations are enforced, all for the safety of the most marginalized clients and the staff of that organization. It is also common practice for traffickers to insist that their victims and addicts go get free food, clothes, and services at these organizations. The less money an addict is spending on basic needs, the more money goes into the trafficker's pockets. It's a sad truth and a brutal reality. When considering the safety measures and procedures provided by specifically focused nonprofit organizations and services, particularly ones focused on women at risk of exploitation, one would logically assume that additional safeguards and policies would be practiced. However, the Truth Lookout team was made aware of an organization in Columbus, Ohio, in the Franklin neighborhood several months ago that has been the center of significant concern for quite some time. Sanctuary Night opened its doors in 2022. Its mission statement listed on its website states, quote, "Sanctuary Night is a sacred space serving vulnerable women who are at risk for sexual exploitation. We provide a place to rest, eat, connect, and get desired resources. It is a vibrant community led by survivors and champions to promote the flourishing of all who sit at our table." Unquote. While it's a very noble mission, and one worthy of pursuing, sadly, it didn't take long before significant issues came to light. It reminds us of a famous quote by Robert Burns: "The best laid plans of mice and men often go awry and leave us nothing but grief and pain for promised joy." As what can only be described as a flood of new activity began impacting the area around the center, it didn't take very long for neighbors to notice the changes in their community. After opening in May of 2022, during the first 8 months of operation, 40 runs by police, fire, and paramedics were dispatched to the immediate area. In 2023, 71 runs for police, fire, or paramedics were made. Public records through October for 2024 show that the number of first responder runs exploded to 118 in just 10 months. The staggering increase of dispatched first responder runs to the immediate area in 2022 and again in 2023 led to a lot of questions regarding the practices and procedures being implemented by the center. Inquiries were made to the center directly, to local authorities, agencies, police, and elected representatives. How could a center exclusively focused on women who are at risk of exploitation become such a dangerous place to its clients or the community? What policies and procedures is the center employing to have a nearly immediate adverse impact felt in the community? Our investigations have led to answers, and while not surprising, they are disappointing. First, and probably most interesting, is the fact that so many men are on the property nearly every day. This, a space for women at risk for exploitation, has allowed and welcomed men onto the property. So many of the initial inquiries about the Women's Center were due to the male domination witnessed so often on the property. It's interesting that nowhere in their mission statement is there a mention of men. Further review finds little to no mention of men anywhere by the organization. After additional investigation, it's been discovered that the center is actually feeding men. We have not observed any vetting of the men or documentation of the men, just a knock on the door and handed a plate of food, no questions asked. This helps to answer questions revolving around why so many men linger around the Center for Women. However, it raises a new set of questions, such as, who are these men? Does the center know who they are and have documentation of them? Have they been vetted? We know of a few of them through our investigation, and their presence helps to shed light on the increase in first responder runs to the immediate area. In fact, a deeper dive into the first responder runs has uncovered 13 overdoses at the center since opening. We know that several of the men seen in these photos are tied to the trafficking of illegal narcotics. Their faces and activity have been connected to at least 7 nearby drug houses. 451 Nace, 311 Dakota, 289 Dana, 290 Princeton, 112 Dana, 339 Avondale, and 1043 Bellows, which was just raided last week. This community is working very hard with many partners to get rid of illegal narcotics and help addicted people into recovery, and to address the opioid epidemic head-on. However, there seems to be a significant disconnect between the mission statement of Sanctuary Night and actual activities taking place. There also seems to be a disconnect as to the risks of allowing men on the property with women who are at risk of exploitation, let alone male drug dealers. This coupled with the fact that with 13 overdoses on the property that illicit drug use is taking place. Further digging into financial records uncovered a staggering amount of funding provided to the center since opening. Both private donations and public money was given or granted to the center. In 2023 alone, the revenue for Sanctuary Night was over $1.1 million. We are still awaiting the 2024 numbers. However, we do know that the center recently received a $300,000 grant from the One Ohio Opioid Recovery Fund, of which the founder of Sanctuary Night sits on the local board. Repeated outreach to the center from local government agencies, police, civic leaders, and even city council members addressed repeated concerns with the center. Over 10 meetings occurred between these local government agencies and Sanctuary Night in 2024. Yet the concerns we've discussed here have intensified as we approach warmer months, which always brings more activity. On January 28th, Sanctuary Night hosted a public meeting to hear concerns from the community, though they had already been expressed for over a year and from multiple city meetings. To say it was an interesting night would be an understatement. After inviting the community for their input, the husband of the founder later went on a social media rant on a neighborhood forum, as he's done before. He expressed his great displeasure towards anyone who offered feedback, asked tough questions, or expressed concern, almost as if he believed that only Sanctuary Night could properly advocate for these vulnerable women, despite the facts of what was actually happening there and the surrounding area. He then stated all the information shared was false and offers to share the names and addresses of those neighbors who expressed concerns. Fortunately, his sanctimonious rant was removed, but also captured for our records. This from a person who does not formally represent the organization at all. These concerns at Sanctuary Night have been voiced and addressed for well over a year, and yet the activity we outlined persists even today. The entire community wants the mission to succeed. However, significant changes to the core operations, protocols, and procedures will need to be changed and enforced before the exposed issues are corrected and create a mutual benefit for everyone except the traffickers. Anything less will merely perpetuate the suffering in the area and the accurate label of poverty pimp.